Hello, hello! So this is going to be a new flavor of subject for this channel, so to my 3 YouTube subscribers, just bear with me. Today we're going to talk about how theaters are designed in relation to sound. If you and I happen to be in the same physics class, you'll probably remember the arrangement of the two-speaker waveform problem. We are not going to talk about that here, so you can throw it in the can. What we are going to talk about, however, are the things theater designers consider when creating a space for performance. One of the first things they think about is parallel walls. They're pretty much standard in every single building, but not really in theaters. Parallel surfaces tend to reflect sound back and forth, which can create an echo or otherwise distort the way the audience hears the sound from the stage, and theater engineers want to avoid that as much as possible. In order to avoid the reflections common in parallel walls, theater engineers will utilize splay walls that angle out from the stage or curve the walls to cause diffuse reflections, wherein the sound, when it hits the wall, does not all move in the same direction, but rather scatters as it reaches the audience. These reflections make it so that the audience can hear the sound as it comes from the actor rather than as it bounces off the wall. In that same vein, engineers will avoid pockets or crevices in which sound can echo. This could be like a small hallway or something like a balcony. Balconies are actually pretty interesting, as there's a general rule of thumb with how deep they can be before sound starts to echo in there, so they take a little extra consideration. Back walls of theaters tend to have to be soundproofed or otherwise treated with a sound dampening material, so that way sound doesn't bounce off the back wall and back at the actors, which can really throw them off their rhythm even if this issue is negligible in smaller theaters. Seating is a consideration for those engineers, as plastic or wooden chairs can reflect sound in unpredictable ways. Most theaters will use fabric upholstered seats. While fabric seating may be more expensive initially, it will actually save the theater tons in the long run in sound specking. Outside of the realm of the construction of the theater itself, set designers have to take into consideration how all the parts of their set will affect sound, whether that be a particularly noisy floor, metal set pieces, or even an on-stage band. The set designer for Hadestown on Broadway, Rachel Hawk, said in an interview with AmericanTheater.org, quote, "I will always spec sound deadening materials in every floor for lots of reasons, but one of them is for the benefit of the sound designer. Sound is not the driving reason to make any scenic choice, but it's a factor in making final finishes." A specific challenge she had to contend with was the onstage band and how the drums in particular would overpower everything else on stage. So there was a lot of sound specking that went into that, as well as other shows with onstage bands like Waitress. So to put all of these lessons into practice, let's use the example of my beloved school theater and how sound would travel in that space. Let's put a hypothetical actor on stage, we'll call him Andrew, and say he starts singing. The sound of the human voice is directional, so it comes out from his mouth at the audience, and from there it will either be absorbed by the seating or reflected off the curved wall panels or off the panels hanging from the ceiling to reflect sound back down to the audience. Diffused, of course. And because our hypothetical person Andrew is a teenager and does not have the strongest voice in the world, the slapback from his voice bouncing off the back wall will not be that much of an issue for him. Microphones open a whole other can of theatrical worms, as you now have to account for speaker arrangements and volume of the speakers and how that will affect the audience hearing both the band and the actors on stage. While it is best to avoid microphones where possible, sometimes they are necessary, like in a high school theater or in theaters larger than 1,000 seats. There are very few large theaters with good enough acoustics to be able to carry sound from a single actor without them having to be mic'd. Like a tailor altering a piece of clothing rather than creating one from fabrics, a new article of clothing from fabric someone else made. if that metaphor makes any sense. It is currently 9 p.m. on a Monday. That explains a lot, hopefully. Regardless of my current state of exhaustion, I hope this video was comprehensive enough. If you want sources or something slightly better written to the teacher grading this, you are welcome to ask for my script. It is only half written. I'm pretty sure you can guess the parts that I decided to just wing it on. Regardless, have a good day, make good choices. Yeah.